Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and I hope that you'll excuse me as I still am a bit under the weather. But today we're going to be unveiling and discussing my brand new Ultimate Scourge Guide and infographic so that you can all properly prepare for not only the upcoming Pestilence second round, which really took us by surprise, I think, as to the release date for this, but also for those of you who might be thinking about Famine's eventual second pass, the upcoming War event, and so on. I want to thank Captain King as well, who helped me build this infographic that we'll be looking at, and it will be updated on a patchly basis. So this one today will be relevant as of the start of patch 6.3 in terms of, the characters and who you should build. And I want to say up front that this is a guide largely aimed at mid-game players who are beginning their ascent into Scourge events and not necessarily end-game players, but there might be some value for you here as well if you're a bit confused as to who you should build, because the Scourge events are nuts. You need anywhere from 40 plus characters over all of the events we have thus far, so it's very daunting in terms of roster building, and I hope that some of this might help you decide who to invest in. So if you're ready to go, then let's boil this guide down. And I want to start here really quickly before we look at the infographic. So we know that as of the Friday blog post that the Pestilence Scourge event is returning. Again, I expected it to be this patch, but I didn't realize it was, I didn't think it was going to be literally at the start of the patch. So it's dropping on July the 27th, which is why I've kind of rushed out to do this video, because July 27th is going to be on Wednesday. It will last, it doesn't say here, but they did say in previous blogs that the second iteration, I believe, will run for 5 days, because they said that initially it was supposed to be 10 days and then 5 days for second runs, which should put it at, I think, Monday to Monday, August the 1st. So that's when that will expire then. So you basically have from then to August the 1st to do this event. And so, unfortunately, at this stage, Web Warriors and Dark Hunters are not really farmable at this point. But a good thing about this second pass of this event is specifically here is that there's basically, if anyone who has 7-star on Morgan currently, which I believe is like the top 500 plus anyone who may have spent money, I guess, on Morgan Le Fay shards, they're going to be dumped out of the existing milestone leaderboard, and then they're going to have their own leaderboard, which is nice. So it's not going to affect a lot of people this second pass, but I think when it gets to the third pass and so on, that's when more people are going to get kicked out of the leaderboard, and I think that'll show more progress in terms of like how high you need to rank and that kind of thing. So it's going to be a little bit hard to estimate what you need to do, but hopefully when we look at this infographic, it'll tell you exactly the characters that you should be building, at least as of this patch. So I want to bring that up. This, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. It's quite big. Okay, so this is what I call the Horseman Scourge Events Guide infographic. It says as of patch 6.2, but really this is we didn't have time to fix this, so it's as of patch 6.3. I think it looks really nice, and I want to thank Captain King once again for helping me organize this, because it looks really stellar, like some of the best jobs that I have seen so far. And so while we don't know a ton of stuff about War and Death at this point, what we do know, of course, is that for War, which is Red Hulk, you're gonna need you can use, I'm not going to say you're going to need at this point, but you can use Hero Avengers, or sorry, Hero Asgardians, Ravagers, and Wave 1 Avengers. Now, the regular Wave 1 Avengers are not listed here, and for the reason that Thor is listed here, he's Wave 1 as well. Iron Man's down here at Death with Bionic Avengers, so I'm not like doubling him up on there. So we'll try to make it more clear, as we get closer to that event, that it is specifically those teams. But the characters that are on this guide are characters that I personally recommend. I don't recommend mid-game players to be building up characters like Hawkeye, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and whoever else, Captain America, from the Wave 1 Avengers for this event. All of the characters listed here are my personal top picks for each of the Scourge events, and some of them do overlap, which is why a lot of them overlap actually, which is why there's an overlap section, which means that these characters are very good characters and they overlap in multiple Scourge events. We don't know the full lanes for War and Death at this point, but you can probably guess based on Pestilence and Famine that there is going to be some degree of overlap. We had villains in both Pestilence and in Famine, for example, and we had Cosmic Mystic, which is very similar. So for when it comes to Pestilence's event, which is Cosmic Flat, you should probably be considering Cosmic Mystics, that way that you can double up both on the Pestilence and the Famine event when you get back around to that when it comes back again. So let's get started. We're going to zoom in a little bit because we're here focused on Pestilence, and I'm going to move my webcam over to the other corner now that we've kind of like got that out of the way. So I'm going to be over here, and we're going to take a look at the Pestilence requirements. So we have nodes 5 and 10. That's going to be right here up at the top for both Pestilence and for Famine, and we have the Web Warriors. Completely ignore, for those of you who like haven't started building too much or are, you know, don't even bother with Dark Hunters. When I'm talking about that this is aimed towards mid-game players, I'm talking about that this is going to be like people who run difficulties 5, difficulties 6, maybe difficulties 7. Now, I ran difficulties 8 max Scourges when I did the first event, and I did use Dark Hunters as a burner team, but really that's about it. I honestly don't think that you need burner teams for like lower difficulties and depending on how many Scourges you put on, because it's not going to be as challenging as it is for people doing the top end content. So for that reason, I think that people really should only be focusing on Web Warriors, and I apologize for having to take a drink. I'm still not feeling that well. So for heroes, though, there is a lot of overlap, and that's why I want to talk about both Pestilence and Famine at the same time, because I feel like I need to. So for Young Avengers, for example, that they are the best characters for nodes 5 and 10 in the Famine event, they also double, they're all heroes, right? So which means that they're going to double in the heroes section for the Pestilence event. So if you want to really, you know, get the biggest bang for your buck, then it's going to be like the Young Avengers for the heroes team. Now, there's a lot of heroes. There's like 65% of the game's roster is heroes, but as far as like if you're focusing and really trying to narrow down who you want to level for these sections, I think that Young Avengers are going to be the best ones. I use them in my Pestilence event. I use them in difficulty 8 as well. So they're more than capable of clearing these nodes in the Pestilence event here. Alternatively, there are some other characters who are farmable. Shang-Chi, Cloak and Dagger. Good characters. I think the Cloak and Dagger might be slowly falling off in general in the meta, so that's entirely up to you, you know, depending on how much you have them invested in already. Shang-Chi is an absolute amazing character. I think you should have him like anywhere anyways, because he's a really great character, so worth building as well. The characters that have the red stars you might be hard to see depending on what platform you're watching this on. There are red stars by characters, and that basically means they're unfarmable, and I believe it says somewhere down here, maybe. If a character, yeah, there it goes, down here. Star means currently not farmable. And for me, I don't consider Ghost Spider to be farmable. However, we have had a lot of shards for her. Spider-Punk in the Arena Orbs, I don't consider that farmable, but he may be in the next 2 months, but not right now for Pestilence Round 2. And Scarlet Spider is nowhere to be seen, unfortunately. Now, as far as the villains go, if they have a subscript on them, this also means that they double for other areas. So we have the Weapon X team here, and they double for global as well, which is also seen in the Pestilence event. However, you don't necessarily want to double dip your characters. You can, but if you aren't able to keep them healthy enough into the next section, then this might be challenging for you. And yes, I realize that I have Morgan Le Fay in her own event. The reason for this is if you do happen to unlock her during the event, you could gear her up and then bring her back into the event if you want to score better. She is a very solid character for not only the villain section, but also the global section. I don't know why she was down there. I probably didn't want to repeat the same. That's why. So they don't appear in more than one section because I didn't want, you know, to overcrowd the tables in terms of like the listings of characters. So for this, Weapon X gets a really big nod for me because I use them in the villain section of the Famine event as well. However, I would consider some of the bigger guns, I guess, of this event, so which would be Omega Red for sure, absolutely, if you have them available to you. Emma Frost, not Weapon X, but a good character to go with Weapon X. Silver Samurai, Sabretooth, and Lady Deathstrike. So these four really, really good. Unfortunately, Lady Deathstrike is not a mutant, so it doesn't double up for this section in Famine, but that's okay. You know, we have Dr. Doom. If you're a further mid-game player and you have Dark Dimension 4 completed, Dr. Doom is a very good character because not only is he in the villain section for Morgan Le Fay's event, but also in the global section. Doc Ock, probably on the lower end of things right now. We'll see later on, though, whether or not that he makes an appearance in some sort of Sinister Six rework. Some people are saying maybe Death's requirements down the line might include Sinister Six if they add characters. There's been some data mines of possible Sinister Six characters. I don't know. That being said, Doc Ock is a very easily obtainable now villain character. He also actually runs in the city node, so you could actually use him here as well for Famine's event. But otherwise, I would focus on kind of Weapon X characters, Darkhold characters where possible for the villain section for Pestilence, if you can. I do do realize, though, that some of these characters are unfarmable, and that's unfortunate, and there's not really much I can do about that, unfortunately, but I kind of list all the best characters in my opinion. Now, for the global section, yes, I do understand here that I do have unlimited X-Men here in the Pestilence section. That's because as the events come and go, you know, people are going to be engaging in Scourge events as they come, not necessarily in a particular order. I realize that Pestilence came before Famine, but some people might start in, you know, Famine Run 3 as like their first Scourge event. So I do want to list them here as characters that are going to be very good in the global lane. On top of the Weapon X characters, which are obviously global as well. And some of the Darkhold characters are global as well. You know, when I ran my global lane, I did Morgan Le Fay, once I got her unlocked, Agatha, Emma Frost, Omega Red, and Lady Deathstrike, I think, and it was really solid. That being said, you can also still use the Unlimited X-Men team. Currently not farmable, but if you do have them unlocked, and if you do happen to have Rogue for whatever reason, and you unlocked Rogue before you unlocked Morgan, then you can use them in the global lane, and it's going to be very solid. Alternatively, more farmable options, though, you have Secret Avengers, and you have Shuri. So they're all global characters. They're some of the best otherwise that are farmable, probably, outside of Weapon X, that you could probably use for this section. And, of course, they double up for heroes. Same with Unlimited X-Men. I think that more broadly, actually, Pestilence and Morgan's event is a bit more friendly in terms of where the crossovers are between characters than, you know, the Famine event is. And finally, there is the Cosmic section down here. Now, I want to say that you should really be considering Cosmic Mystics only. And the reason for that is that so you can double up both in the Pestilence event and in the Famine event. You notice that I do have... the only non-Cosmic Mystic that is listed here is Kestrel, because Kestrel is a very powerful standalone character, and I think that if you have her, and you have her built up, you probably should be using her for this event. But she's not a Cosmic Mystic, which is why she's missing sorry, from the Famine listing here. But we do have Deathpool. We have Silver Surfer, who is now farmable. He's also a hero. We have the Eternals. I know the Eternals are not farmable, but they are some of the best characters in the game. Not only can you use them in the hero section, if you so wish, but you can also use them in the Cosmic section for this run, for this event, the Cosmic Mystic section for the Famine event, and most likely, like, probably every other Scourge event will likely contain them in some fashion, whether it's through heroes or whether it's through Cosmic. I think it's unlikely, or Mystic even, you know, like just a Mystic standalone section. I think it's inevitable that we're going to see that. The Eternals are just some of the best characters in the game. And so we do have a nod to the Hero as Guardians, specifically Thor and Mighty Thor down here, because they are Cosmic Mystic. You might want to build them, especially for new players right now who have access to Mighty Thor. May not be the best standalone choice, but it's definitely something that you can use, and you'll get some value out of that down the road for the War event. So, again, I'm not going to cover everything here when it comes to the other characters for the Famine event, because that's not come to pass yet. But this is basically an ultimate Scourge guide, in my opinion, for all of the best characters that you can build for these events and who you should be considering. I've basically taken the top 5 to 10 characters for each section and then plop them down here. There is this overlap window like I talked about earlier, and these are the characters that are usable across more than one Scourge event. So if you're going to build any of them, then you're going to be building these characters here, because you're going to see the most overlap in various Scourges, and probably actually you're going to see them used in Scourge 3 for War and Scourge 4 for Death as well. But you know, that remains to be seen, since we don't know the other lanes for those Scourge events yet, but very likely they're not going to be too significantly different than some of the ones that we've seen thus far. We've seen Villains overlap, and then Cosmic. We've almost seen 2 full lanes of overlap between Pestilence and Famine, so it's inevitable that there's going to be some overlap from these ones into the other ones as well. I just think that's, you know, that's what's going to happen. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about this infographic. This will be posted up in my Discord channel as well, so if you want to see this, if you want to share this with your alliance, please do. It'll be available there, and this will be updated most likely on a, you know, every month and a half, depending on the patch and that kind of stuff, as new characters come out, as new characters leave the meta. And, you know, I'll be adding to these different boxes as we go through the game. And so hopefully we can come up with a grand list of these are the top characters that you should be building. And it's quite a lot of characters. You know, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of characters that you need to build for Scourge events. Scourge events are a wide roster type event. It's very unfortunate because there's a lot of characters here. If I were to break this down, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, even with the overlap, there's probably at least 40 characters right now that you need to have built. Do you need to have them all built up to a high degree? Not necessarily, because I think if you're looking at to try to get the 425 and 500k points that you need to kind of unlock the characters in the first pass, or in the pass that you're running, that you're probably looking at like gear 13 characters. I think you're looking at, like, I haven't run at that low of a difficulty, but I do believe, and please correct me down below, I think you're looking at the gear 13 kind of range for these characters to build them up to level 70, 75, whatever that happens to be. And so I think that's where you need to take these characters in order to make them viable enough to unlock the Scourge characters, which is really the most important thing. It doesn't matter too much if you get like a 4 or a 5 star, but as long as you can get that 3 star, which is the 425k bare minimum points, that's what you're going to need to get for the Pestilence event. Anything else related to the Pestilence event and the Scourges, I may do some extra videos, you know, later on in the week when we know a bit more about the second release, but I do have videos on my channel as well. Just type in like Pestilence, or type in Morgan Le Fay or Scourge, and those videos will show up on my channel if you're interested. So that's going to be the end of this video, and of course, everyone, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.